Ethiopia faces a watershed moment after Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn unexpectedly steps down. One of 2018's most hotly anticipated new films premiered for African audiences this week in the Kenyan hometown of one of the film's stars, Lupita Nyong'o. And today's Music Makers segment features Zimbabwe's top female pop artist, Amara Brown. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCorry. This is Africa 54. Ethiopia's Council of Ministers is set to announce a state of emergency that will last 3 months. Sources close to the ruling party told VOA that the military will be in charge until Ethiopia's parliament, currently in recess, approves Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn's resignation. He unexpectedly resigned on Thursday in what he described as a bid to smooth reforms. The East African nation has been plagued by years of unrest. A wave of strikes and demonstrations hit towns near the capital this week as protesters successfully pressed their demand for jailed opposition leaders to be released. More than 6,000 political prisoners have been freed since January as the government struggles to placate a simmering anger among the two largest ethnic groups, the Oromo and Amharic. They have strongly complained of being underrepresented in the country's halls of power. Now, for insight on the implications of the sudden political changes in Ethiopia, Tsedale Lema, editor-in-chief and founder of the Addis Standard magazine, joins me live via Skype from Frankfurt. Now, Tsedale, first, tell me about this announcement that there is a possibility of state of emergency being announced and that the military will be in charge. Is that the usual practice? Is that the system?
Well, going by the last 2 years, it looks like they are adapting to that system of declaring a state of emergency. That is what our sources have also told us. However, just the last few minutes ago, journalists who have been called in by the Council of Ministers to attend a presser were told to go home and attend another presser by the Defense Minister tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So the session is on, and it's likely that to last a couple of more hours.
Yes.
To decide.
Okay. Now, one of the opposition members said that the ruling coalition there seems to have lost its authority and that now there should be a system where all political parties could be involved to map out the future of the country. Do you see that as something that can happen?
It can happen if they are determined to make it happen. Let's not forget the ball is in the hand of the ruling party. And they need to make a lot of concessions. And if it would mean calling a snap election, a snap general election, so that the opposition can be represented more officially, so be it. But it still depends on the decision they're going to make. But one thing is for sure, the state of emergency is not a solution to that.
Yeah. Now, do you think the resignation of Prime Minister Desalegn is something that is good for Ethiopia, or perhaps this leaves the country in a state of confusion even more?
Again, I would like to, throw this back at the ruling party. The resignation of the Prime Minister is, of course, a complete departure from the way politics is run in that country, and it's impactful in many ways. Whether this is going to lead the country to the right way or not, it still depends on what they are going to do, who they're going to elect, and how they're going to reshape or reconfigure the political system that didn't function for the last 20 years.
Now, very quickly, what will be the legacy of Mr. Desalegn?
This would be a little bit of a difficult, but he's a peacemaker. He's been a prime minister that they have agreed on to have a smooth transition in the sudden days, in the wake of the sudden days of the late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi. And I think he has played that role quite well in being a pacifier, in being a bridge to a smooth transition from the unknown in the wake of the days of the late Prime Minister to to where we are today. But it's also the flip side of that. It's set in motion an unknown period of time ever since he came to power.
Well, we'll be watching to see what follows next. Thank you very much, Ms. Lema.
Thanks for having me, Vincent.
That's Tedala Lema, who is the editor-in-chief and founder of the Addis Standard magazine. Now, addressing Parliament in his first speech since becoming South Africa's president, Cyril Ramaphosa promised to conduct a fierce battle against government corruption, something his predecessor was heavily criticized for not doing. But some political analysts say it won't be an easy task. VOA's Mariama Diallo reports.
Referring directly to the corruption accusations that forced President Jacob Zuma to resign Wednesday, South Africa's new president, Cyril Ramaphosa, vowed to tackle government corruption.
Issues that have to do with corruption, issues of how we can straighten out our state-owned enterprises, and how we deal with state capture are issues that are on our radar screen.
Ramaphosa told lawmakers he hopes to unify the various political parties to better serve the people of South Africa.
And I'll seek to execute that task with humility, with faithfulness, and with dignity as well.
But fighting corruption in South Africa won't be an easy task, says Sibusiso Nkomo of Afrobarometer, speaking via Skype from Cape Town.
He needs a few scalps, and those scalps have to be they have to be top people. But also, I think it's a culture that he needs to set, and it's a very difficult task. But I think if he pushes through, and this is what he focuses on the most, and maybe the economy, he would do, people will reward him.
Nkomo says the ruling ANC party has no choice but to deal with the problem head on. Otherwise, voters will go elsewhere. If
I was him, this is the election campaign. I think this is what the opposition parties were going to use and say, well, you have a corrupt government, and here you say you want to clean up. He actually has to clean up, because the 2016 local government elections showed us that South Africans have moved beyond loyalty.
Whether people supported former President Zuma or his successor, this is a new era for South Africans.
I don't know if it's going to be a good thing that Zuma is leaving, because Zuma has done so many things in our residence.
I do think that, it was way overdue. Yeah, I feel very indifferent to just the whole system, the ANC, but it's better that he's gone.
Zuma, who took office in May of 2009, maintains his innocence in the face of the corruption accusations that led to his resignation. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
Well, Saturday, February 17th, marks 7 years since the start of the Libyan revolution, which culminated with the bloody overthrow of longtime leader Muammar Gaddafi in October 2011. 7 years later, the country is in a free fall on many levels and remains in turmoil. Despite the chaos, the United Nations envoy to Libya, Hassan Salame, has a plan to hold elections by the end of the year. VOA's Sabrina Castelfranco has more.
For the past 7 years, young and old have turned out on February 17th at Martyrs Square in Tripoli, waving flags to celebrate what they hoped would be a new beginning. Gaddafi is gone, but many of their dreams have not materialized. The initial euphoria is a distant memory. The lives of ordinary Libyans are increasingly complicated. Inadequate health care, rampant inflation, cash shortages. Fuel also is a problem in this oil-rich nation. On the political level, little has changed since the turbulent days of 2011. Armed groups are a sign of deep divisions and of the difficulty facing the current unity government to actually govern.
The UN-backed Government of National Accord has very little command and control over Tripoli, where it is reliant on its alliances with local armed groups. Beyond that, it has even less.
Despite this, the UN has an ambitious plan to stabilize Libya by holding parliamentary and presidential elections this year. It is off to a slow start.
There are several electoral conditions. For the moment, we have only achieved one, the beginning of voter registration.
With the various militias heavily armed, much as they were in 2011, observers are skeptical and concerned.
The conditions aren't in place for them to take place properly. Nobody could guarantee the security across the country. How could the UN guarantee that the actors involved would accept the results, whatever happened?
Unlike 7 years ago, there is little reason to celebrate these days. For Libyans, it is a daily struggle to live with the reality of an extremely fragmented country. International experts say it will take much effort to bring the unity and peace that, for Libyans, exists only in their dreams. Sabina Castelfranco for VOA News, Rome.
Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now coming up, this week's mass shooting at a U.S. high school rekindles the debate over gun violence. Stay with us.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Well, the suspect in the mass shooting mass school shooting in the southern U.S. state of Florida made his first court appearance on Thursday. 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz faces 17 charges of premeditated murder in connection with Wednesday's shooting rampage in Parkland. The shooting has rekindled the long-running debate over gun violence in America and what, if anything, can be done to stop it. Here's VOA's Jim Malone.
Are you Nicholas Jacob Cruz?
Yes, ma'am.
In his first courtroom appearance, Nicholas Cruz was ordered held without bond and now faces 17 counts of premeditated murder. Cruz was arrested by police shortly after Wednesday's mass shooting in Parkland, which said students fleeing for their lives. At the White House, President Donald Trump offered words of sympathy and comfort to both victims and survivors in Florida.
Answer hate with love, answer cruelty with kindness. We must also work together to create a culture in our country that embraces the dignity of life, that creates deep and meaningful human connections.
Trump made no mention of tightening gun laws and focused instead on the issue of mental health.
We are committed to working with state and local leaders to help secure our schools and tackle the difficult issue of mental health.
But congressional Democrats are demanding action on tighter gun control measures in the wake of the massacre. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi.
Once again, we see the urgency for Congress to take true common sense action to prevent gun violence.
That should begin with tighter background checks on gun buyers, says Congressman Mike Thompson.
Somebody's got to screw up the courage to be able to look at this issue and figure out what can Congress do. And certainly the expanded background check is a modest step in that direction.
But Republicans had a more measured response to the tragedy, including Florida Senator Marco Rubio.
People are angry. They want to know, why don't we do something? Why is nothing happening? And the challenge is not just to do something, but to do something that would work.
Back in Florida, local officials sought to calm a shattered community.
Today's a day of healing. Today's a day of mourning.
But even amidst the grieving, local school superintendent Robert Runcie says the time has come to deal with gun violence.
Now is the time for this country to have a real conversation on sensible gun control laws in this country.
For the moment, though, students and parents came together to give thanks for those who survived and to pray for those who will never come home again. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a special performance by sensational Zimbabwean performer Amara Brown. We'll be right back.
As we are youth of South Africa, we've been struggling too much.
As I want to hear that there won't be any more corruption, it's going to change.
They are ready to rebuild, to contribute to the effort to rebuild the country.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Luxury fashion brand Badgley Mishka created an app for the iPhone and iPad to let attendees of New York Fashion Week interact with all its fall collection as it debuted on the runway. Show attendees could respond to the outfits on the runway with like and love buttons in the app, providing real-time data that the brand can use for future design and production decisions. Maybelline New York and augmented reality app designer Perfect Core also showcased makeup looks inspired by the show in the YouCam Makeup app, which can be downloaded for free from Apple's App Store and Google Play. In other tech news, a recently launched dating app in Britain lets users rate and review past dates. Do I Date works like a TripAdvisor for humans. Users can anonymously review and rate past dating experiences, good or bad. The idea is that information will benefit others, giving them useful insight into potential matches. Of course, there is always the potential for users to post petty, offensive, or simply untrue reviews. With that in mind, the app only allows users to rate or post a review if they have the person's telephone number programmed into their smartphone, meaning prior contact. Users can respond to reviews and report unfair or incorrect comments. Well, staying in the UK, it's the Chinese Year of the Dog, and what better way to celebrate than a session of Dogger or dog yoga? It was invented in the United States, but it has spread around the world. Owners need to let go of their dogs and not worry about them weeing or pooing on the floor, which of course happens. There are no size restrictions for dogs taking part, but they must be social, neutered, and vaccinated and at least 6 months old. The biggest trouble dog fans are having is finding spaces in London that would allow dogs. And that's what's trending today. Now, one of 2018's most hotly anticipated new films premiered for African audiences this week in the Kenyan hometown of one of the film's stars, Kenyan-Mexican actress Lupita Nyong'o. Based on a Marvel superhero comic, Black Panther is set in a fictional, futuristic African nation. As Mohammed Yusuf reports from Kisumu, audience members praised the film for its fresh take on the continent.
The Africa premiere of the Black Panther movie drew several hundred people in the western city of Kisumu. The stars of the movie were not in attendance, but that did not dampen the atmosphere here.
To be honest, it's a great honor that Kisumu is the first place in Africa that this movie is screened. We are so happy that we are honored this way.
This film is being hailed as an example of the Afrofuturism movement, which blends science fiction and African tradition to reimagine the past and visualize what is to come. After the film, the viewers gave positive reviews.
What I remember is this interesting mix between the traditional and the postmodern. And something about the movie which I liked is that evil was punished at the end.
The costumes, they have amazing costumes. Like I think I have 3 dresses that I want to be made for.
Now, I'm a fan of hero movies. I've watched Captain America, The Avengers, and all that. I was very eager to watch this one, so I've actually enjoyed the most part of it.
I think it's more of like massaging the African ego. Like, we are strong, but we really don't know how strong we are.
Most importantly, people are happy to celebrate one of their own, Lupita Nyong'o. She couldn't be here in the flesh, but for her fans, seeing on a movie poster was enough. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Kisumu, Kenya.
Well, Amara Brown is Zimbabwe's top female pop artist. She talks to Heather Maxwell, host of Viewers Music Time in Africa show in the gardens of the Bront Hotel in Harare, about her career and what it's like to follow in the footsteps of her famous father, Andy Brown. She also performs a song live to Mbira that she dedicates to Hugh Masekela, who had just passed away.
I'm sitting next to Zimbabwe's top leading female artist, Amara Brown.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm fine. It's so great to meet you in person.
It's great to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. So how does it feel to be at the top of your game in Zimbabwe?
I haven't reached the top, in my opinion. I'm pretty much on the journey to where I want to be.
Where do you want to be?
I want to be the biggest female artist in Africa, period.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you play the Mbira.
Yes.
It's your traditional side.
Yes. Yes.
I really would love to hear you play something for us.
I would love to do that,
okay.
actually.
Yes.
Amara, take one.
This is called Mbira. It is a Zimbabwean traditional instrument. And even though I'm a pop artist, I love incorporating this in my music. I recorded this song with the now late, great Hugh Masekela. Very dear, not just artist, but person to me. And I'd like to dedicate this performance to him because we recorded this song together. And I hope you enjoy it. Here it goes.
see you again in the next life.
Amara Brown of Zimbabwe. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. Now, for more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching. Have a good night from all of us in Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Woodwork is any part of a house or building that is made of wood.
Crawl out of the woodwork.
This expression sounds troubling.
I won! I have the winning lottery ticket.
Well, that's great. How much money did you win?
I won $25,000. But please, don't tell anyone.